When coaching bypasses psychology, the hidden cost of shadow work, when you're not the one being coached but still get burnt. The coaching industry sells transformation, mastery, and self-actualization. But what happens when the person next to you gets coached and you're left picking up the emotional wreckage? This is my story. I wasn't the client. I never signed up for the breakthrough sessions, the spiral dynamics, the shadow integration. But when someone close to me became deeply immersed in coaching ideology, I experienced the fallout firsthand, watching our shared reality fracture under the weight of self-optimization narratives and identity-level change. And I fell into a depression so deep I barely recognized myself. Eventually into agoraphobia, not because of a lack of resilience, but because coaching wielded irresponsibly and with no regard for actual psychological safety doesn't just harm the client. It can devastate everyone around them. The myth of the healthy projection. One of the more recent claims from a coaching group promoting NLP and shadow work caught my attention. Failing to project your shadow is one of the main causes of mental illness. This statement isn't just wrong, it's dangerous. Shadow work, as Jung originally described it, was a slow, nuanced process rooted in therapeutic depth in the hands of modern coaches trained in Neuro-Semantics and NLP. It's been repackaged into a product. These practitioners aren't trauma-informed. They're not psychologists. But they throw around terms like projection, ego, and shadow integration with alarming confidence and no accountability. As Dr. John D. Mayer, emotional intelligence theorist, warns, using psychological concepts without understanding them does not help people. It confuses them and can be harmful. When buzzwords replace boundaries, terms like shadow, first tier, and second tier maturity aren't neutral. They're part of a hierarchy. And they feed a belief that if you're not integrating your shadow or transcending ego structures, you're spiritually or psychologically stuck. It's self-development disguised as superiority. For those on the receiving end of someone else's sudden breakthrough, it can feel like a psychological mugging. You get told you're projecting, that you're the resistance, that you're not growing fast enough. And slowly, you begin to doubt yourself while the one who's doing the work floats off into abstract theories and inflated self-concepts. How coaching can trigger mental health collapse, even when you're not the client. It's not discussed enough. The secondary casualties of coaching. Partners, family, friends, those left behind when someone becomes obsessed with their own perceived evolution. In my case, it left me hollowed out. I watched my long-term relationship dissolve under the weight of frameworks that encourage detachment, radical independence, and the dismantling of unresourceful narratives, many of which included me. I didn't need to be coached to be destroyed by coaching. This isn't personal growth. It's psychological trespassing. Coaches who dabble in unconscious material, especially those invoking Jungian concepts without the depth, often lack the training to deal with what they awaken in others. And when the client's new worldview invalidates or discards the people around them, that's not transformation. That's collateral damage. As Jung once said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. What's missing from that quote in coaching circles? Support, containment, clinical insight, not a weekend workshop and a certificate in linguistic patterning. We need a reckoning in coaching. The coaching industry needs more than ethics. It needs humility. It needs to acknowledge that psychological material is not a playground and that mental health is not improved through clever reframing and spiritual jargon. We also need to start talking about the uncoached, the ones left behind, unraveled, or blamed for not keeping up. Because if transformation leaves destruction in its wake and calls it growth, then it's not transformation at all. It's delusion with a business model.